Constantino, pound for pound.
Here with the boss from Showtime, Steven Espinoza. Steven, obviously, put on a tremendous card this Saturday, Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano. Talk about the fight.
Look, it doesn't get bigger than this. I mean, you really don't have to hype it at all. It's the undisputed title and the first one ever in the division. But more than that, I think Jermell's record, his accomplishments speak for themselves. But I don't think a lot of people realize how good Castano is. And he's tough, he's rugged. He's got some good, solid names on his resume. This is a tough fight. I mean, I think a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, it's Charlo," and Charlo's got a big name. It's not an easy fight. This is a tough fight for him.
Steven, obviously, you're known for delivering goods as far as the fight game to Showtime. Talk about Jake Paul also headlining against Tyron Woodley in August. Pay-per-view. Should be a fun night of boxing.
Yeah, I think look, it is fun. It's not championship level boxing. That's not where Jake is. It's sort of it's a nice it's sort of a different genre. But the reality is there's a lot of interest. And the one thing that I think it's an opportunity for the network and for the sport is he, without question, does bring in people to boxing that don't pay attention to boxing any other time. We've seen that. We see that on social. We see that in all of our other research. He is bringing people to the sport. So I think, as much as anything, yes, we want people to enjoy the main event. But for the sport and for the network, it's important to fill out the card with exciting fighters that are going to make fans of those people who are coming to Jake Paul. And I think that's why we start with Amanda Serrano. Always in entertaining fights. It's a good matchup. She's going to be an action fight. And I think the rest of the card, it's going to be all action fights.
Talk about him wanting to fight Canelo in 3 years. It's obviously something that sounds crazy. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, look, it does sound crazy. I'll be the first to say it. But if you had told me 18 months ago that, Jake Paul and Logan Paul would have both done pay-per-view fights on Showtime, I would have said that's absolutely crazy too. Yeah. So, look, both of them have the ability, sometimes they sort of say crazy things that actually, they are able to deliver on. So I wouldn't discount Jake for anything. Look, to get to a world title level, in 3 years, that's saying a lot. But it's saying a lot that he's even come this far.
He obviously wants the biggest names in combat sports. He also said that he's going to fight Conor Mcgregor in a boxing match. What do you make of that?
Look, I think it's entertaining. It's intriguing. Look, Floyd did it. It was one of the biggest events ever. I think there's a lot of great matchups. Obviously, there's this rivalry between Jake and UFC, and a lot of the UFC fans are hoping that Tyron Woodley, shuts Jake up. And they're rooting for that reason. Tyron doesn't do it. I'm sure there's plenty of other MMA fighters who are willing to sort of defend MMA's honor.
What'd you make of Conor McGregor's last fight against Dustin Poirier?
It's unfortunate. You hate to see an injury like that. You want to see, them able to finish the fight, and I wish him the best in recovery. But the reality is, in my eyes, you could see how the fight was going to go, in the first round. It was clearly going to go Dustin's way. It seemed like, the tide was turning. The first minute was probably Conor's, but then slowly but surely Dustin was taking over. And I feel bad for Dustin. He didn't get the definitive finish to put this. So, look, he's going to go on. He'll get his title shot. And, hopefully Conor recovers. Maybe we'll see him in MMA. Maybe we'll see him in Jake Paul fight.
Is the fourth fight looming? What happens to that fourth fight?
Yeah, look, that's a tough one. It's for an organization that says prides itself supposedly on the best fighting the best. A lot of times it's not the best fighting the best. It's the best fighting the guy who's going to give the best financial result. So the reality is, I think if and when Conor is able to come back, I'm sure there are guys who should be in line for a title shot ahead of him. So the reality is, if Dustin's got the title, if Oliveira's got the title, they should be making the best fighting the best. There's plenty of other opponents, and if Conor McGregor on his own merits deserves a title shot, then fine, give it to him. But if his qualification for getting a title shot is he can generate a lot of money, then guess what? you're no longer the best fighting the best.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to leave us with as far as the Showtime yourself or any update news?
Look, when we've got these big time events in the main event, sometimes I always like to give a little bit of attention, a little bit of love to the undercard, because when you have a really strong main event like a Tank Davis or Jermell Charlo, sometimes the undercards don't get the love. I think opening fight is going to be a war in itself. Vidal and Aleem, both big punchers, both good, strong, young middleweights. Rolly is always entertaining. Anthony Yigit, as a substitute opponent, I mean, he's arguably tougher than the original one. So I think, look, there's a lot of focus on the main event for good reason, but I think all three fights are worth watching.
Constantino Garcia here for Little Giant Boxing. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow me on social media at Constantino Garcia.